How's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today we're going to be talking about Frost Death Knights in current battle for Azeroth. Taking a look at the Talons, what's changed, what we're probably going to be rocking, and just kind of taking an overall glance at where we are as Frost Decays. So, let's jump into this. First off, I gotta explain that none of this is set in stone since we're unable to actually use some of the add-ons on the beta at the moment. But as for the level 56 talents, I'm gonna be running a Runic Attune because, as we know, without the tier 2 set, Shattering Strikes doesn't turn out to be not as good of a talent. Now, obviously, if I was using my character on live, I'd have my 4 set and everything, but this is like a alpha ready-made Frost Death Knight. So as for the level 56 talent, you've also got Icy Talons, which will probably be towards the PvP spec, kind of like it is on live now. I could see that being remotely the same build, but we'll have to gauge it with damage and things like that as soon as we're able to use certain add-ons here on the alpha. As for the level 75 talent, we got Murderous Efficiency, obviously to keep up better consistency. We got Freezing Fog, which deals 20% more damage from Howling Blast and Frost Fever. And we got Horn of Winter, which is pretty much these first two are staying all the same. As for the level 58 talent, Ice Cap obviously is going to give you the better reduction to pop more cooldowns, which is a pretty amazing talent as far as PvE single target DPS goes. Also, we got Avalanche, which will fall under the PvP category. And we got Glacial Advance. I mean, obviously not many people touch that unless they're doing Mythic Pluses. Even then, I still don't see a reason for it. As for the level 60 talent, we got Abomination's Might. It does hit kind of hard, though. I was looking at that damage. That 1,346 damage is pretty beefy right now. As for the level 60 talent, Abomination's Might for PvE leveling is what I'm going to be rocking, obviously because it's going to stun. Now you're probably thinking, well, yeah, winter is coming stuns. No, it does not anymore. Winter is coming does not stun. It hits 5 times and it roots people in place for 8 seconds, which in a PvP situation, if you have to stay on a healer or something like that, 8 seconds is quite a long time. So that could be quite a strong benefit as far as like TSG goes and things like that. But obviously, Blinding Sleet's going to give us our best CC when it comes to PvP situations, or CCing healers, killing DPS, things like that. As for the level 75 talent, we got Permafrost, which your auto attacks, 100% damage dealt is absorbed as an absorb shield, which is fairly nice, not going to lie. As for Volatile Shielding, it looks like it's staying exactly the same, absorbs 35% more damage, generates 100% additional runic power, that's definitely staying the same. And as for Inexorable Assault, I believe I read that they were going to nerf this down, but it looks like at the moment it's still every 1 second that gets the proc. I did read somewhere that they were thinking about changing it to 3 to 5 seconds to generate this, but I'm not 100% sure on that currently. As for the level 90 talent, we're running Gathering Storms, which, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Extends the duration by 0.5 seconds per runic spent, obviously. And then we got Frozen Pulse. Now, this is one of the things I'm curious about, because at the beginning of the expansion, kind of like during Legion, we went Frozen Pulse as far as elongated fights in the beginning of what raid was that? Emerald Nightmare. Because we didn't actually have our haste cap, and obviously our haste crit cap could be changed at the moment to something separate. I'm not really sure, but I have a feeling later on it won't really matter, since we got these Heart of Azeroth next, which is basically like a built-in Arcana Crystal. I feel like they put this in so people really don't have to worry about their off-spec talents, or their not off-spec, but their secondary stats nearly as much as you would currently live in Legion, because it has probably the most major effect in single target DPS out of just about anything, is having the correct or incorrect stats is going to affect you. Also, we got Frost Scythe, which is staying exactly the same, deals a base amount of damage, can benefit from Killing Machine, and crits with Frost Scythe 4 times normal damage, which is pretty savage. As for the level 100 talents, we got Hungering Rune Weapon, which looks like it's staying about the same, which falls under the PvP build. which also is going to give us more survivability. I'm actually pretty excited to see what we can do with that one. I'll explain that a little more as we go into it a little bit later on in the video. A lot of you Frost Death Knights are going to be really happy to hear this currently, and I really don't think they should change it. Because I like where this is heading. As for the other level 100 talent, Obliteration is the best consistency talent, obviously, in current live. Whether it's going to be on Battle for Azeroth, I'm not 100% sure, because at the moment, Breath of Sintragosa is looking quite nice, continuously dealing 1,137 frost, or Shadow Frost damage every 1 second to enemies in a cone in front of you, and deals reduced damage to secondary targets. So it's going to completely burst on somebody insanely hard, and then it's going to deal, you know, reduced damage to everyone else around it. That'll actually grant this ability more leeway to give us single target burst and single target pressure inside PvP situations, and not nearly deal as crazy AoE damage, so you're not cleaving down 4 or 5 people at once, making it a huge problem in PvP scenarios. So that is kind of cool to see that they did that. I'm kind of happy with that, but we're definitely going to test this out. We're going to test out a bunch of different builds in this video and just take a look at where things are as incomparable to damage. So let's jump over to testing out some of these talents. So before we start out doing some DPS, right now we're running kind of the basic single target build that we'd be running, converting over into Legion. Obviously not Shattering Strikes at the moment because, you know, we talked about the force head thing. So what we got going on for slight changes for Frost Decays, and I'm thinking it's going to be the majority of classes coming into the next expansion, is you'll notice that Pillar of Frost can no longer be popped at the same time as Remorseless Winter. So that really got me thinking that the majority of major burst cooldowns and things like that coming into the new expansion is definitely going to be on a separate global cooldown than Remorseless Winter. I haven't tested it out with Death Strike yet and IBF, but I don't even know if that actually heals anymore because of the artifact item we're losing. I could look through some things, check out passives and see if it's in there somewhere, but it doesn't look like it is. I think they actually just implemented it passively into Death Strike, which in my opinion is a lot better. The reason being is because having to combine our major heal with IBF as a 3-minute cooldown gave us such low consistent survivability compared to a lot of classes, and at the moment with Death Strike it actually heals a lot more than it used to. If you're reading those talents down there, your eyes are probably getting really big. Why? Because they should. Look at this thing. Look at this. It's so beautiful. Alright, okay, I'll calm down a little bit. It deals 970 physical damage. Man, we'll throw that out the window. We don't care about that. But it heals you for 30% of all damage taken in the last 5 seconds. All damage. Not a percentage. All damage. That means a well-timed Death Strike is going to be a lot better than a poorly timed Death Strike. Or Death Strikes during burst of another class is going to heal you a lot more than just not. So as you can see, and it also heals for a minimum of 10% health regardless of damage taken. So, I mean, that'll equate to 10 Death Strikes. You can full heal with 10 Death Strikes. I mean, but if you're taking a lot of damage, obviously, it's going to heal for quite a bit more. That's the other thing I was talking about when it came to Hungering Rune Weapon, is it's going to grant us more runic power. It's going to grant us more runes, obviously, which is going to grant us more Death Strike. So not only a Hungering Rune Weapon going to be more of an aggressive talent, but could also be a very good defensive talent based on the amount of healing. Now, you won't really get the effect of it yet until I actually start taking damage and start Death Striking things, but it's actually very nice. I'm impressed with the amount of survivability we have with that Death Strike. That being said, we do have a talent that popped its head back up. That used to be on Death Knights. Fairly sure it was more unholy for the most part, but now Frost Death Knights seem to have it too. We have the ability Death's Advance. Everyone remembers this. I think it became passive at some point. It did all kinds of kooky things for a bit there. But we have, for 10 seconds, you cannot be slowed below 100% normal speed. 100% speed, guys. Doesn't matter what's hitting you. A rogue, mage, warrior, nothing. It doesn't matter what's hitting you. You can still go 100% normal speed with Death's Advance. It lasts, I'm not sure how much it lasts. It doesn't actually say on there, but we'll proc it up and see. It lasts 10 seconds. 10 seconds we cannot be slowed below 100% normal speed, and you resist movement effects by 80% and are immune to external knockbacks, making that a fairly solid talent for us guys as Death Knights. That is something we have definitely needed, because like, let's say we're fighting an Arcane Mage, we didn't stand a chance in Heckin' Legion and us catching an Arcane Mage, simply because if we're slowed, there's no way we're going to catch somebody with 3 blinks, just based on cooldowns. And also, we still have Wraith Walk, so can you use both those at the same time? As a matter of fact, you can! Look at that! That's pretty cool, so you can proc that ability, throw up Wraith Walk, and you wouldn't be slowed. But actually, the nice thing about Wraith Walk is it increases your movement speed by 70% while active. Your movement speed cannot be reduced below 170% for 3 seconds. So we do have a couple solid movement speed abilities going on here, and also the other thing that's going to completely affect how people are playing the game and how effective these talents are is kind of like the Pillar of Frost is on a completely separate global cooldown than a lot of your abilities, which is also going to slow down a lot of the other classes. They'll be forced to choose between bursting or mitigating damage instead of being able to throw up a Frost Nova, pop major burst cooldowns right away, such as fighting a mage and then them nuking on you pretty much all within 3 global cooldowns. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more spaced out, giving classes the abilities to further outplay somebody. It looks like we're resorting back to almost like that chest play style, you know, I move here, you move here, instead of that Legion play style we had for a while where we were just like, it was more like Street Fighter. I mean, let's be honest guys, it was Street Fighter going on. It was kind of odd. Let's go ahead and get into this combat with these 3. I shouldn't have a problem with these. So I'm going to run in, and I'm going to just pop basic cooldowns on. I'm going to throw up Remorseless Winter for that AoE, and I'm going to drop some of these Obliterates. Did not get a Howling Blast proc. There was one right there, which I'm going to go ahead and proc up Obliteration for, and just kind of complete that rotation there. As you saw there, we really didn't have a lot of problems. We got a nice little debuff on us. We're going to grip this guy in and Death Strike. This is with a proc, and you notice it was quite a bit of health. It was a pretty good little chunk. Now watch what happens when I use it outside of burst. It's still quite a bit of health, even without the Death Strike proc. And really, if you're getting Death Strike procs constantly and killing ads, you have no trouble surviving, at least when it comes to the PvE side of things. And obviously, I'm not even using the Absorb Shield, so we're just kind of cleaving through these ads like they're nothing. And, oh, would you look at that? Those are leather shoulders. Those are kind of cool. We'll just hold on to those. I picked up a sword out here, and the shoulders just kind of killing ads. So yeah, that's what we got going on for this spec. It's really nothing impressive coming out of this spec. It's, you know, the generic 5-minute plus long single target damage rotation, and really just, yeah, nothing special really. It's just that raid boss single target DPS. But let's go ahead and change up our specking just a wee bit here. Alright, using that. Alright, we got Runic Attune. We can change it up to Icy Talons, Shattering Strikes. Let's see how much damage Shattering Strikes plays out, because I did notice during that rotation my Frost Strike was hitting slightly harder than my Obliterate was. So it's kind of leading me to believe that somewhere in there, Frost Strike is still hitting harder than Obliterate, like it is on live. So I'm kind of curious how much harder, and whether or not I'm actually going to be able to get 5 stacks on this guy before we kill him. Alright, we're going to use some Death Strikes here. No, I am not getting Razor Eye stacks applied to the target. Wait. Come on. You can't... Is it really that bugged out? No. Don't tell me Razor Ice is bugged again. I was just talking about this in the last video. Like, in the last video, the Razor Ice was bugged early on because it wouldn't consume the stacks on the target. Now my Razor Ice, what is happening? No. Oh, that's what's happening. Okay, okay. Alright, so I took off the actual sword that has Razor Ice on it. I had to figure this out, like, what is happening right now? That's not making sense. Alright, now it's gonna work. Now we can go back into it. This was on me, guys. This was on me. Yeah, I should probably just melee in a target, because he's already up to 4 stacks. Alright, there's 5 stacks, so I'm going to just try not to hit him right away. I want to pop cooldowns and hit him with a big Frost Strike, but I don't know if it's going to be like, it was the global cooldown. It hit for, looks like 1.5 thousand, which isn't too amazing. Now, I couldn't tell if that was both hands or just a single hand. If I had some add-ons, I could definitely tell. We'll go ahead and take a look at that right here. Looks like I'm losing a lot of health going in for that. Okay, so it is both hands, and we got like a 3 mil Frost Strike crits right there, which it's almost roughly double an Obliterate, which is quite a bit of damage. They also are doing damage scaling a bit differently than they currently on live. On live, a lot of our abilities scale off of attack power, which caused them to do some crazy things with generating a lot of attack power and pure strength. And they just base these abilities off of stacking strength, so it becomes a lot easier to balance, a lot easier to change. And that's probably one of the things affecting Shattering Strikes by quite a bit. Icy Talons, we'll test out that one in just a moment here. But I want to kind of change up my entire rotation for that. One thing I want to do real quick is test out this Breath spec, because I want to know if Breath is popped on a separate cooldown system than the rest of our abilities, because if it is, it's going to be quite a bit harder to use correctly, because you're going to have to, like, at least to get a nice burst opener, you would have to pre-pop Pillar of Frost early, which you would lose a second on it, and then go into your actual cooldowns, which, I mean, I guess you got to have some runic power generation going on too, so it might affect it a little bit less. As for Murder's Efficiency, obviously, if you're going for an elongated fight, you're going to be popping that, but I'm going to go with Horn of Winter, just to see what kind of breath we can get off, what kind of elongated breath we can get off. Obviously, without the other legendary weapon, it's not going to end well, but first I'm just going to prep up my runic power on this guy right here, and I want to pull like 3-ish targets, maybe more, just because we want to see breath go big. I gotta mount up and go chase something down here. I think we're gonna go right around the corner. Yeah, there's a whole giant group of things over here. Actually, this will be perfect right here. So I'm gonna run in here, pop this ability, pop that. It looks like breath is still on a separate cooldown, so that's good for us. I'm gonna throw up breath and see what kind of damage it deals. As you can see, it's dealing an okay amount of damage, but it's mainly to our prioritized target, not necessarily the other targets. But we're still able to cleave down 4 targets with breath. Pretty simply, but also it's on a fairly large cooldown, 2 minutes. Pillar of Frost. Okay, so we can combine Pillar of Frost with Breath of Sindragosa still, to get off a nice, quick, easy burst without those being on separate cooldowns. That might actually be a viable way to go, since you can't pop Pillar of Frost with Remorseless Winter anymore to get to your Obliterates, because that's going to be 3 global cooldowns, compared to popping both of these and going into Obliterates, which would only be 2 global cooldowns. You'd be able to get to your damage a lot faster, but obviously there's prep time. So that's very interesting. Breath of Sindragosa is dealing quite a bit of damage. We'll have to keep an eye on that. As for Hungering Rune Weapon, we'll go ahead and test that out. I don't think I can switch out of it until Breath of Sindragosa is off cooldown. So while we're waiting on that, we'll go ahead and test out some Frost Scythe going on here. Definitely want Murder's Efficiency or Freezing Frog for Frost Scythe. Well, we'll see. We'll take a look here. That's usually my Frost Scythe. This button. Where do I usually put this button on live? I can't remember. Probably Shift 4 actually is where I usually put it, I can imagine. Alright, so we need to go pull some multiple adds. First thing I'm going to do is prep up some of my runic power, heal ourselves up before we go over there, because we don't need to, you know, generate a bunch of stuff going on, because it's not... Okay, let's go. We're pulling these adds. Now, obviously, I'm going to throw up our cooldown. I'm going to throw up Remorseless Winter, then we're going to go into Frost Scythe, which took about 3 global cooldowns, and then we're just going to kind of finish them off, see which kind of AoE cleave we got going on, how much damage we got going on. And at least in my opinion right now, it seems like as long as you crit, it does a fair amount of damage, but as far as like overall damage coming out at the moment, I'm not extremely impressed. I mean, we are killing quite a few adds, and with the Death Strike procs going on, you could probably farm down some fairly large group of adds without any problems using Frost Strike, as long as you're putting out some single target damage in between with Frost Strikes and things like that to grant the kills in between your Frost Scythes. Yeah, it's not terrible. It's definitely not terrible. Not as amazing as the breath felt, but obviously breath's on a 3-minute cool or 2-minute cooldown, so it's a bit different. I'm gonna pull these guys again. I'm just having fun testing this out. We can't test out what I want to test out until we wait for that cooldown to come off. But Frost Sight doesn't seem to scale much based on the Pillar of Frost. Like, it was hitting for 1,300, 1,500 with cooldowns, and that's not a lot of scaling. I felt like we were probably getting a bit more out of breath also on that. I'm gonna go ahead and get that proc off. Howling Blast, back into some Frost Sight. As long as it crits, pretty good. Outside, yeah, not so great. But obviously inside Mythic Pluses, things like that, we're going to be having 5 and 6 adds in each pull. It could definitely come out to be a fairly good talent as far as consistency DPS goes. Okay, gonna go over and check out Hungry Rune Weapon, which I believe that's gonna be, roughly the same talent. I mean, it's not gonna be anything insane. Let's go ahead and go for kind of the PvP build. Per se. Alright, so we got the PvP build going on. Obviously, there's a lot of cleave going on here. We're gonna grant ourselves 3 stacks before we pop any major cooldowns, and yeah, go for some major cleave here. So we're gonna kind of get all these guys up, pop some major cooldowns, throw up these. We're gonna go into some obliterates. Now, Frost Strikes are gonna be our generating damage, like our major damage. I probably actually should have bursted completely different there. That was a terrible burst in my opinion. But we'll go ahead and try that again. That actually was quite a bit of damage coming out, because obviously we have Avalanche coming down on targets. We got a bit more damage on our Freezing Fog, and Hungry Rune Weapon is going to bring us up to Haste Cap. If we're not at Haste Cap, which is going to make us deal a lot more burst, this actually kind of looks like it's a fairly solid, because those 3 targets, we just kind of ate through them like they were nothing. So we'll go ahead and check out if it's still like that. Obviously, if we're taking these talents and getting faster melee strikes, what are our melee strikes actually hitting for? I'm kind of curious to see that. Is that our dot? Okay, there. I see our little melees. They're barely popping up. 400 damage, 200 damage. That would actually probably be quite a bit of Absorb Shield if we actually took Permafrost, because of the just the clear amount of haste that we're going to be getting using the Icy Talons build, using Hungry Rune Weapon. We'll get a lot of melee abilities off. It might even make us unkillable and comparable to these ads right here. So we're going to go ahead and run in on this guy. We're just going to mess around a little bit. We're just going to kind of auto attack, because it should be quite a bit of damage. Our Frost Shield right there, literally even without using the haste increase with this one ad, is stacking faster than it's falling off. Like, quite literally, if you're running this ability with that 100% damage, this ad cannot kill you. You could AFK and your auto attack would kill this ad without it killing you. So that's kind of interesting to see. We're going to build up RP for the next ad. I hope we have a little group we can do. I see over there there's some. Alright, getting back on this battle tank. Oh, that's why I love Alpha. This is why I love Alpha. Alright, so pulling these guys right here. We're coming back. First thing I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to try and get up my, I'm going to pop AMS right here. First thing I'm going to try and get up is 3 stacks of Icy Talons. Reason being, Icy Talons is going to give us a lot more burst. I'm going to throw up major cooldowns here and throw up everything. Like, absolutely everything, just to see what we can do. I am just getting slaughtered because how much prep time that actually took. Kind of surprising there. But once we actually got things rolling, we're just slaughtering our way through them. A lot of haste. A lot of haste. This spec probably has what looks like to be the strongest burst AoE too, to tell you the truth, because like, I don't think 3 targets were bursting down that fast, even with the breath spec. I mean, maybe if we fix it up a little bit, try a couple things out, it would maybe deal more as far as the AoE situations. But obviously this burst is going to be every minute instead of every 3 minutes, so it would probably be better in the leveling situation than obviously using breath. Huh. Very interesting to find out some of that. But yeah, alright, the other thing I want to do is I want to throw up cooldowns with 3 people on me, and what I'm going to do is get stacks and just let my character auto attack to see how much actual absorption we can get out of Permafrost compared to you know, not having permafrost. And obviously the auto attacks are going to be the big difference there, so we're going to go ahead and get 3 stacks here. Oh, we need a little more RP. Alright, now we're just going to auto attack. Looks like we only got 2 targets. Now we're going to frost strike whenever we need to keep up our stack. We let them fall off. We messed up. We let our stacks fall off again. Alright, so note to self, frost strike, 25 runic power. We're going to need 75. If we have 100 runic power, it's going to be even better, obviously. So let's go ahead and get down on these targets and try it out again. We've got 54. I need to get off like 2, maybe 3 obliterates, and then we'll be capped. And then I'll go ahead and start just unloading the melee haste ability on this target. Now, as you can see, I've got a pretty good amount of haste. Yep. I kind of figured that's what it was going to be. I kind of figured. So just with 2 targets with the increased amount of haste, we're dealing enough melee damage to absorb multiple targets damage as far as PvE goes in normal mobs. Obviously, if there's going to be elites or quest mobs, they'll probably eat right through that little shield. But as far as these ads go, yeah, it's going to be a very tanky talent to be running. I could definitely see the idea of being a bit more of a juggernaut in this expansion than we are currently in Legion, based on how effective permafrost is and how strong our death strikes are going to be. Very excited to see what it's going to be like in PvP. Obviously, it's hard to say currently, since there's really no comparable logs and things like that. But as far as survivability goes, oh yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great for the PvE side of things. I feel so much tankier than I did. And obviously, if you're running these talents right here, I feel like you're not going to hardly take any damage outside in world PvE questing. Also, of course, like I said earlier, Hungering Rune Weapon is going to grant you more Death Strike healing capabilities, while also giving you more haste, which is going to generate more permafrost shield, and Icy Talons, which increases your attack speed, and overall it's going to give you a shield. I don't know what we should call this. I guess it's just like the PvP burst spec, but I don't know. It's almost like we're going to have to call it something else. We're going to have to call it like the I don't know. What word should we use? Should we use it's the Juggernaut spec? The Juggernaut Frost spec? It's almost like a Juggernaut Tank Frost spec. It's kind of crazy. Well, some interesting finds here. I guess we're going to check out Glacial Advance before too long. And I also want to check out Frozen Pulse I was talking about. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Procking on that ability. Gonna go ahead and go for some Frozen Pulse here. Other thing we want to check out is Glacial Advance, Avalanche. It's not going to be noticeable that I'm not really using Avalanche. I can set that to that. No, we're going to set that to Shift 1. But this ability, Glacial Advance, is on a 12.1 second cooldown. It hits for 1,365. You crit that. I mean, honestly, it's hitting harder than Frost Scythe is. But Frost Scythe obviously doesn't have a cooldown, and they require the same amount of runes. So it's kind of hit and miss, I feel like, on those two. We're going to kind of line these targets up, hit them with a Glacial Advance. It did deal quite a bit of AoE damage. It really did. And obviously, as, I wouldn't say a filler, but one of your main generating cooldowns, or one of your main generating abilities, it hits fairly decent when it comes to AoE combat. But we'll really have to see what comes down to. Are we actually going to be rune-starved? If we're quite rune-starved using, Frost Scythe wouldn't be very effective. The other thing I want to do is test out Frozen Pulse damage, which obviously is going to be melee damage. It's going to be just kind of sitting here. Frozen Pulse went off twice there, went off 3 times there, which isn't a large amount of damage. You can tell by the off target that I'm focusing, and obviously you got to keep consuming your runes if you want Frozen Pulse to keep procking. That's 1 proc. And obviously running Murder's Efficiency, I'm not right now, is going to go against Frozen Pulse. So the less rune generation you have, the more Frozen Pulse is going to proc. But overall, it's not procking amazing, and obviously in like the normal grind, normal ad killing, questing and things like that, it's not going to turn out to be very good, as we can see here. It might be a bit better as far as like 5-minute long fights if we're not haste capped, like I was saying earlier. But overall, I do not find it that great of an ability. But I am kind of impressed by Glacial Advance, especially around the premise of major cooldowns. So we'll have to keep an eye on that also, because that right there was a 3k crit. That was pretty good. That was hitting as hard as a Shattering Strike did consuming 5 stacks with Frost Strike on major cooldowns. Obviously did a little bit more damage, Frost Strike did, because of the offhand damage. That is going to sum up our class overview of Frost Death Knight. Guys, let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about Frost Death Knight builds, you want me to test anything out, you have any crazy ideas, let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more content in the future. Until next time, guys, this was your boy Hazzed.